Hello, welcome to Sexpertise. I'm your host and favorite sexpert, the Erica Rivera. Welcome to one of my favorite traditions, your annual sexual wellness check-in. Think of tonight like lighting a candle and sitting down with the deepest parts of yourself, not to judge or measure, but to gently witness how you've grown. Sexual wellness isn't about how much sex you had or didn't have. It's about your relationship with your body, your boundaries, your pleasure, your safety, and your emotional intimacy. Tonight isn't about performance, it's about presence. As adults, our sexuality shifts constantly with stress, seasons, hormones, relationships, work cycles, mental health, travel, grief, joy, healing, and everything in between. You're allowed to evolve and you're allowed to change. This check in gives you space to honor that evolution. Maybe this year was expansive. Maybe it was complicated. Maybe it was quiet. All of it is valid. Tonight, we slow down and make room to really see what your body and heart have been carrying. As we begin, take a deep breath, release whatever stories you've absorbed about sexuality, like what it should look like. And tonight, it's all about truth, warm, compassionate truth. Nothing you discover makes you behind, broken, or out of sync. It only makes you human. Let's step into this check in with some softness and curiosity. So, sexual wellness is the harmony of your emotional, physical, mental, and relational well being. It's not just orgasms or desire, it's whether you feel safe in your body, clear in your boundaries, connected in your relationships, and grounded in your pleasure. It includes how comfortably you communicate your needs, how well your body responds when it feels supported, and how confidently you make decisions that honor your authentic self. Sexual wellness is whole person wellness. Through adulthood, your sexuality is meant to change. Stress shifts things, illness shifts things, relationships also shift things, life phases, postpartum, perimenopause, grief, transitions, relocation, all of those things influence how your body experiences intimacy. Nothing about your sexual self is fixed. This check in gives you permission to adapt and adjust without shame. Sexual wellness is fluid, just like any other part of you. So, we walk through key areas that make up your sexual well being, not to label yourself good or bad, but to collect information the way a gardener gathers soil samples patiently, lovingly, knowing growth comes from understanding. When you understand what you need, you reconnect with your own power. So think back over the year and notice the moments, big or small, that shaped your relationship with intimacy. Maybe there were days you felt deeply connected to your body and others where you felt numb or disconnected. Perhaps you tried something new, had a meaningful conversation, or set a boundary that changed everything. Reflection isn't about rating your year, it's about honoring it. Also consider the emotional textures of your year, whether were there seasons when stress felt heavier, when pleasure felt further away, or when connection felt harder to reach. Conversely, were there moments where your body surprised you, where desire showed up unexpectedly, or where softness felt easier than before? This isn't about achieving, it's about observing. Our bodies hold stories we often don't acknowledge. Reflection becomes an act of intimacy. So when you look back with compassion instead of critique, you create space for growth. You give yourself permission to step into the next year, not with pressure, but with clarity. Awareness brings choice, and choice in turn brings freedom. So, sorry, my nose is bothering me. Of course, every December I feel like this is how my year-end episodes are, where it's like full of sniffles. But just like every other episode, I always get through it. So, thank you for your patience and for listening to all of that. Even for those of you who maybe are not watching on TV or streaming online, some of you listen to this afterwards with the podcast version, and all you hear is my voice and a ton of that. But, anyways, back to our sexual wellness check in. So, your relationship with your body forms the foundation of your sexual wellness. So, consider how you touched yourself this year with warmth, with curiosity, with gentleness, or maybe barely at all. Think about the moments when stress pulled you out of your body or when anxiety made sensations feel distant. Body connection has ups and downs, and acknowledging that helps to dissolve shame. Your body may have asked for slower mornings, deeper rest, more warmth, or more grounding this year. Maybe you struggled with body image or hormonal changes. Maybe you experienced moments of deep embodiment, dancing, that would be me, stretching, breathing, or connecting in ways that felt alive. All of these experiences, they matter. Your body keeps track even when your mind doesn't. Simply notice how you relate to the home that you live in, your physical form. The more gently you treat your body, the more receptive it becomes to pleasure, intimacy, and desire. Reconnection is always possible. It just starts with listening. Desire is not constant, it's seasonal. And we did talk about seasons during the last episode. I'm still convinced I should probably do a full episode just on each season. But some months it may feel strong, other months it may disappear entirely. This doesn't mean anything is wrong. It means your nervous system is responding to your life. Factors like stress and conflict, hormones, workload, travel, grief, and emotional overwhelm all influence desire. Desire is a barometer, not a value judgment. So take inventory of how desire shifted for you this year. Did it rise during times of rest or fall during periods of burnout? Did you notice differences between spontaneous desire, wanting sex out of the blue, and responsive desire, where your body warms up only after connection begins? Many adults primarily experience responsive desire, and that's completely normal. So honor your desire cycles. When you observe your patterns without shame, you begin to understand what nourishes desire rather than forcing it. Desire is less about effort and more about conditions, safety, rest, connection, and of course, presence. Boundaries. Let's talk about boundaries. Reflect on the boundaries you honored this year. The moments where you said no, where you paused, or where you protected your emotional or physical energy. These are victories worth celebrating. Also, acknowledge the times when you overrode your own needs in order to please others, or you did that to avoid conflict or push through exhaustion. Those moments don't make you weak, they reveal where care is needed. Healthy boundaries create healthier intimacy. They glow like lanterns, guiding relationships with clarity and honesty. When you look back at your year, identify where your boundaries strengthened. Maybe you spoke up for the first time. Maybe you allowed yourself to rest. Maybe you made a decision your past self couldn't have made. Growth often hides in those moments. So, we check in not to critique, but to recalibrate. Boundaries evolve as your needs evolve. What mattered this year may shift next year. Let this reflection empower you to enter 2026 with boundaries rooted in self-respect, not fear. Communication. My favorite topic. So, communication is lubrication. I want to design merch with that on it. Definitely comment below and let me know if you purchase something like that. But as you know, all year long, I have preached communication. It's my favorite part of every episode. Communication is the heartbeat of intimacy. Think about the conversations you had this year, the courageous ones, the vulnerable ones, the difficult ones, and even the ones that you avoided. Communication is not about saying everything perfectly. It's about showing up, even imperfectly, with honesty and compassion. Consider where communication felt easier this year. Asking for comfort, expressing preferences, discussing needs, or sharing fears. Also notice where communication may have felt harder, perhaps around desire, boundaries, or emotional triggers. I know a lot of people have an issue communicating their boundaries. Every challenge you faced in communication is a clue pointing toward what your heart and body need more support with. Acknowledge your efforts. Even if you stumbled, you tried. And trying is intimacy. As you prepare for next year, think about one communication goal that you want to strengthen. Maybe pausing before reacting. Maybe it's asking open questions or being clearer about your needs. Communication grows with intention. Now, emotional intimacy is the feeling of being seen and understood and accepted. This year, how often did you feel emotionally safe with yourself or others? Did you feel supported? Did you build deeper emotional bonds, or did stress create distance, making vulnerability harder? Emotional intimacy rises and falls with life's rhythms. Also observe how emotionally available you were to others. Sometimes exhaustion makes us pull inward. Sometimes healing helps us open. Neither is wrong. It's simply where you were. Emotional intimacy requires energy, and you're allowed to have seasons where your emotional energy was low. So let emotional intimacy be a mirror. Seeing your emotional patterns helps you understand your capacity, and understanding capacity helps you build healthier relationships next year with yourself as well as with others. Let's talk about physical intimacy. Physical intimacy. doesn't just mean sex. I feel like a lot of people assume that all I'm talking about is sex when I mention physical intimacy, but physical intimacy can include touch, closeness, cuddling, warmth, shared space, sensory comfort. Think about how your body responded to physical intimacy this year. Did you crave more touch? Or did touch feel overwhelming? Did certain forms of touch feel comforting while others felt draining? These responses are data, not defects. So, notice whether physical intimacy felt connected or disconnected. Sometimes we crave holding hands more than sex. Sometimes a hug feels more intimate than anything else. Sometimes physical closeness is easy, and sometimes it brings up tension or fear. So pay attention to what your body preferred this year. Those preferences are meaningful. Trust that your body's reactions were protecting you. Physical intimacy thrives in safety, rest, and honest connection. So as you reflect, consider what forms of touch you want more of in 2026. Do you want slow touch, playful touch, grounding touch, sensual touch? Or maybe you simply just want more rest. Your pleasure habits, solo or partnered, they also reveal how connected you are to your sensations. Think about how often you explored pleasure this year and how it felt. Was it intentional or rushed? Was it joyful, stressful, or did it become routine? Did you allow yourself space to explore new sensations, or did you stick to familiar patterns? Pleasure habits change with your emotional landscape. Solo pleasure is one of the most honest check-ins that we have. It shows where your desire is, where your comfort is, and where your curiosity is. Partnered pleasure shows your relational dynamics, communication, pacing, boundaries, and trust. Neither is more important. They both matter. So reflect without criticism. Pleasure is a living and breathing part of your wellness. No matter how consistent or inconsistent it was this year, you have permission to re-enter it gently. Pleasure is patient. It waits for you. So healing isn't linear. We talked about healing a lot this year. Healing is not linear. It rarely looks glamorous. So take a moment to notice any progress, even the kind that felt too small to matter at the time. Maybe you set a boundary you never could before. Maybe you gave yourself permission to rest. Maybe you started therapy. Maybe you paused therapy with intention. Maybe you explored grounding practices or finally acknowledged the emotional weight that you had been carrying. These are milestones worth honoring. Healing often grows through invisible shifts, the softening of self-criticism, the ability to ask for space without guilt, the courage to say, I'm not ready. Whether your progress was loud or quiet, it was still meaningful. You may also notice shifts in the way your body processes safety. Did your nervous system settle more easily after stress? Did you become more aware of your triggers or learn how to soothe yourself without spiraling? Maybe you were able to figure out, maybe you were able to see signs of healing during intimacy. Moments when your body allowed closeness where maybe it once used to shut down, or moments where you named your needs instead of tolerating discomfort. Those changes are evidence that healing lives in your lived experience and not just in your intentions. Healing isn't about the absence of difficulty. I mean, it's going to be difficult, but it's about becoming more resourced. Funny, I've had someone call me resourceful quite a bit, and that just, as that came out, it made me think of that. Anywho, ask me more about that later. But perhaps it's about becoming more resourced, more aware, and more connected even when challenges arise. Let yourself be proud of the ways you've grown. Healing progress is cumulative, tiny steps layering on top of each other until new emotional pathways form. No one else sees the mountains that you've climbed inside your own mind and body, but you do. And acknowledging them strengthens the foundation that you'll carry into 2026. Healing is not something that you complete, it's something that you nurture. And you've done more this year than you probably give yourself credit for. So, what's missing? Acknowledging what felt missing is not about identifying failure. It's about identifying need. Reflect gently on the spaces in your sexual wellness that felt empty, quiet, or neglected. Maybe you longed for more affection, touch, romance, passion, communication, of course, or spontaneity. Spontaneity. Maybe you wanted more rest, more privacy, more self exploration, or more emotional closeness. Sometimes what's missing isn't physical at all. It could be safety, it could be validation, time, or even mental space. When you identify what was actually missing, you can gain clarity about what your body and heart are craving moving forward. It's also important to consider that external factors contributed to these missing pieces. Maybe this year brought major life transitions, work stress, caretaking responsibilities, travel. For me, it was travel. I was living in Japan temporarily this year as I've navigated becoming a part time expat. That also affects things, right? Relocation, grief, burnout, illness, all these things, even emotional upheaval. These things naturally shift intimacy and desire. You didn't fail. Life happened. And intimacy evolves in response to the environment around it. Understanding the context helps you release pressure and welcome compassion. Your needs don't vanish when life gets busy. They're still there. They just get quieter. So, this is your chance to listen again. Finally, noticing what was missing creates an opening for change, not from a place of force, but from curiosity. If you needed more touch, what kinds of touch? If you needed more communication, what kind of conversations? If you needed more pleasure, what sensations felt most alive? These questions are not demands. They're invitations. You deserve to have needs and you deserve to have those needs heard. Awareness is the doorway into a more nourished year ahead. Now that you've reflected on what felt heavy or missing, and feel free to pause to if you're rewatching this, feel free to pause the show and continue that reflection and come back over. Now that you've reflected on what felt heavy or missing, imagine that you want more, what you want more of next year. Not as a resolution, no resolutions, but more as an expansion. Maybe you want more softness, slower mornings, intentional touch, long hugs, gentle conversations. Maybe you crave more honesty, speaking up sooner, sharing your preferences, expressing emotions without fear. Or maybe you want more adventure, new sensations, new intimacy rituals, or new ways of connecting with yourself or your partner. Whatever you choose, let it be rooted in desire, not pressure. Think about the emotional experiences that you want more of. Do you want to feel more connected, more expressive, more grounded, more playful, more embodied? Emotional desires shape physical experiences. When you lead with emotion, your body follows. This check in is about aligning your inner world with your outer behaviors, choosing practices and intentions that support the version of you who feels whole and nourished. Your sexuality is part of your humanity, and it deserves intentional tending. Allow yourself to name these desires. You don't need a plan yet. You don't need steps. You only need clarity. What do you want more of in 2026? What would make intimacy feel richer, deeper, or more aligned? Let this be an honest, hopeful moment. Your desires matter because you matter. Your capacity for pleasure and connection is not behind schedule, it's evolving. And you get to guide that evolution. So let's set your intention. Your sexual wellness intention is not a performance metric. It's a compass. It's one gentle guiding phrase or value that helps you shape the emotional and intimate landscape of your year. Instead of goals like have more sex or be more confident, an intention might be I choose softness. I choose slowness. I choose honesty. I choose curiosity. I choose rest. Intentions expand possibility, possibility without demanding compliance. Let me take another sip of my tea. You gotta love winter. But I rarely ever have these episodes edited. I like to come as I am. So, cough, cough, sniff, sniff, you're welcome. Anywho, as you consider your intention, think about what you want your body to feel more often. Safe, seen, desired, relaxed, alive, playful, connected. That word connected keeps popping up. Connected. Think about which habits support these feelings and which ones suffocate them. Your intention should be a balm, not a burden. It should be something you can return to again and again. When life gets loud or stress pulls you away from yourself, your intention needs to be your anchor. So choose an intention that speaks to who you're becoming, not who you think you should be. You don't need a perfect year. You need a compassionate one. Sexual wellness isn't built through force. And I've been also saying that throughout this year. It's don't ever force it. It's built through self-attunement. One intention held softly can shift literally everything. So let it be simple, let it be true, and let it be yours. As we close our annual sexual wellness check-in, take a moment to honor yourself for showing up tonight. Thank you for watching. Reflection is courageous. It requires vulnerability, honesty, and tenderness. You allowed yourself to examine your year with a compassionate lens, noticing your patterns, celebrating your growth, and naming your needs without shame. That in itself is intimacy. This is connection. This is the groundwork for a more aligned year ahead. Remember that nothing you discovered tonight needs to be fixed immediately. This episode wasn't about correcting anything. It was about clarity. Sexual wellness is a lifelong journey and not a single achievement. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to change your mind. You're allowed to shift your boundaries, to rediscover pleasure in new ways. You're not behind. You're in progress, and progress is enough. As you head into the final weeks of the year, carry your intention gently. Let it guide your choices. Let it guide your rest, your play, your pleasure, and your healing. Thank you for joining me tonight, and thank you for choosing softness. Thank you for allowing me to walk with you through another year of growth, curiosity, and connection. Let's step into 2026 with courage and compassion. You deserve a year that feels like a deep exhale. So, I want to thank you once again. Can't believe it's been a whole nother year. Thank you for joining me during this annual sexual wellness check-in, and I hope tonight gave you space to breathe, reflect, and reconnect with your body in a compassionate way. As you move through the rest of December, like I said, take your intention with you, softly, gently, without pressure. If you'd like to go deeper, my Patreon community has tonight's exclusive intimacy insight tip sheet waiting for you. So you can visit me here. You can subscribe to patreon.com/theericarivera. It's a beautiful way to continue this reflection. And if you're seeking personalized support, I also offer one-on-one virtual consultations to help you navigate intimacy, communication, and pleasure with clarity and confidence. For those inquiries, you can also contact me at this email here, sexpertise@e360tvlive.com. You can also follow all my social media platforms at the Erica Rivera. So next week is my birthday mailbag episode. If you haven't turned in your juicy questions, make sure to email me as soon as possible, as tonight was the deadline. So next Tuesday is a very different episode in which we will plan more so as a Q&A, and I will be answering all your juicy questions during my 39th birthday. So until next week, take care of yourself, honor your needs, and remember that softness is strength.